Before I begin my speech, I just want to thank all of us in the room here today and those of you that will be watching this YouTube video for not checking our phones for like an hour now. I know that for many of us, refraining from checking our phones throughout the remainder of this talk will be arduous. Yes, it will be difficult. Seriously, as of right now, people across the globe are averaging 4 hours and 47 minutes of screen time, and that's per day. But despite this, we must persevere. As Winston Churchill once said, if you are going through hell, keep going. Hopefully, I've caught your attention with this quote. However, there is absolutely zero evidence to support the fact that Winston Churchill himself once said this. In fact, the International Churchill Society classifies it as, quote-unquote, merely attributed to Churchill, crucially noting the evidence of any reliable source. What if I told you that today, most information online follows a similar pattern? In the approximately 5 or so hours that the average Joe will spend online, you aren't necessarily guaranteed to be always encountering the most credible information. But this isn't the issue that I'm here to talk about. The problem that I want to address is the fact that according to Act for Youth, younger children's access to technology is rising, with 31% of 8-year-olds having phones in 2021, up from 11% in 2015. Seriously, 8-year-olds. Let me just put this out there. When I personally was at the ripe age of 8 years old, I was probably like playing Roblox or something. Oh wait, okay. So perhaps I'm not a shining, perfect example of what you should be doing. But that's fine, you know? There's always tons of unqualified people talking about certain subjects all the time. What's one more? Seriously, have you ever walked into a room where a bunch of people were watching the Olympics, sitting on the couch going, you know what? I reckon that I could probably do that too, if only I had the right pair of shoes. You know what? I can admire the confidence. But here's the thing about confidence. You can be 100% confident about something and still turn out 100% wrong. For instance, when I was receiving my quadratics test back, I was so certain that I'd gotten an A+. I came to class, I sat down in my chair, borderline eager to receive my result. So I sat down eventually, I turned my test around, yikes. Let's just say that I definitely did not get an A+. Indeed, I was the epitome of what psychologists call the Dunning-Kruger effect. Sometimes the more you know, the less you think you know. And the less that you actually know, the more that you think you know. Always strive to be the first one. At the very least, I was able to mildly comfort myself. I mean, I sure felt productive when I was watching people on YouTube study for their tests. But this is a key thing about social media that we are seldom aware of. Often, on social media, when you watch somebody study for a test instead of studying for your own test, or watch others show off how much they've read in a month instead of beginning to read that one book that's been collecting dust on your shelf since like the start of the year, you can feel productive in the moment. But then eventually you'll turn over that maths test, if you're a little like me, or you'll go to bed and you realize you haven't actually done much today. Sure, you watch lots of other people get things done, but that's their life. It isn't your life. It's like watching life through a window, merely observing but not taking any action yourself. But life runs on actions. It's the bread and butter of success. Increasingly, this passiveness, this inaction is reflected through ordinary human interactions. In fact, we are all online so often to the point that someone even coined the phrase, the quote-unquote digital renaissance, in reference to the modern era, analogizing modern society to the Renaissance, a rebirth of creativity and innovation. However exciting this sounds, we must take care to not allow our real world to fade out of the picture in comparison to our online world. Now, to be clear, the core problem isn't technology itself. How else would I have discovered that Winston Churchill probably never said the quote that I opened this speech with, or that the mild headache I've had for the past 10 minutes is actually a rare, life-threatening, once-in-a-blue-moon disease, and I've only got mere days left to live? On a more serious note, no one is denying that digital literacy is indeed important. The problem is when we become purely passive consumers of experiences rather than actively participating in them. For instance, a while back, I myself wanted to become better at public speaking. I watched TED Talks, videos about your body language, eye contact, and even your vocal projection. I discovered that it's always good to be loud, but not to overdo it, so that you're yelling like this, whilst giving off the impression that you want to start a fight. However, the opposite, talking really quietly like this, is also rather unappealing. And then, after around 4 hours of consuming content about public speaking, I realized that I hadn't actually spoken publicly in front of anyone. At some point, the only way to improve at the thing is to actually go outside and do it, just like what I'm doing right now. The same applies to practically all walks of life. If you want to learn an instrument, eventually you'll have to play it. If you want to get better grades or learn something new, you should probably hit the textbooks instead of procrastinating. The reason that our hobbies are so important in the first place is because they force us to participate in them. Speech and debate, for instance, are particularly interesting examples of this because they develop skills that are difficult to develop online or on social media. In a face-to-face conversation, you have to respond directly as well as engage with the other person. You have to engage with people whose opinions aren't necessarily the same as your own. These skills become increasingly more important in a world where more and more of our interactions occur online. So maybe at the end of the day, what I'm really trying to say throughout the whole entirety of my speech is that we should all try and touch some more grass. Thank you.